2 years ago, Kennedy Carter put her hands on Caitlin Clark in a moment so ugly the league had to publicly decide whether she still had a place in it. Chicago didn't wait to find out. They released her, even though she was averaging over 17 points a game at the time. Every other team passed too. All 11 of them looked at her tape and decided the risk wasn't worth it. One league executive summed up her value afterward in a single word: radioactive.
A foul which was called. The question is, will they call it unnecessary? Kennedy Carter, Clark. I mean, that's clear.
Carter spent most of 2025 overseas just to keep playing. First in Mexico, then in China, where she actually dominated hard enough to win league MVP, averaging 31.4 points a night. None of it mattered to the WNBA. When she finally got the chance to talk about the hit again on a podcast, there was no apology in it. She called it just her way of saying, "I'm here," brought up an elbow that was never mentioned right after the game happened, and said flat out she doesn't mind being hated for it. Still, Las Vegas signed her for 2026 anyway. If this kind of deep dive breakdown is your thing, get subscribed now. We're covering every angle of this fever season all year long, and you don't want to miss what's coming, which set up July 5th, her first game back against Indiana, against the one player she's never really answered for. Clark was out. Aja Wilson was out too, and for a half, none of that history mattered. Indiana led by just one at the break, 42-41, on the back of a Lexi Hall buzzer beater that survived a review. Indiana had come off a rare 7-day break, and Stephanie White used the time to get the team back to fundamentals after weeks of scrutiny following the Alyssa Thomas incident earlier in the season. It didn't show early. The two teams were still tied at 47 apiece in the third quarter, with neither side able to pull away. Then everything flipped, and this is where the game actually starts to belong to one player. Indiana ripped off a 21-8 run over the final 7 minutes of the quarter. And right in the middle of it, Sophie Cunningham took over the Carter assignment completely. It wasn't a single possession of good defense. It was a full quarter erasure. Every time the two of them rotated onto the floor together, Cunningham was already in position before Carter could even turn to look for the ball. She fought through screens instead of going under them. She denied the catch instead of contesting the shot. On the possessions where Carter did get a touch, it came so late in the shot clock that there was nothing left to do with it. That's not defense in the normal sense. That's a targeted decision to make sure a specific player never gets comfortable. And it worked on every single trip down the floor. And she wasn't just guarding Carter into oblivion, she was scoring on the other end too. 9 points, 3 of 6 from 3. Meaning the possessions Indiana got back from smothering Carter turned directly into points at the other rim. That's the full two-way version of Enforcer, not just a defensive cameo. Vegas had no counter for it. They shot 3 of 11 in the quarter and missed every single three-pointer they attempted, while Kelsey Mitchell alone scored 11 points on Indiana's end of the floor, getting to the free throw line over and over until the Aces' defense simply broke. By the time the quarter ended, Indiana led 68-55, and the outcome was no longer in question. But the more specific story was Carter's box score next to Cunningham's name in the matchup column. The league's leading bench scorer, a real 6th Player of the Year contender, walked into the exact game built for her redemption and played 15 minutes. She attempted 2 shots, missed both. Final line: 0 points, 2 rebounds, 1 assist, 1 steal. That's the part worth sitting with. 2 shot attempts in 15 minutes isn't a cold shooting night. That's a player being actively hunted off the ball, possession after possession, by someone who clearly had this exact matchup circled beforehand. Both of them are chasing that same 6th Player of the Year award this season. Carter's got the counting stats built up from earlier in the year working in her favor. But shutting down your direct competition for that award, on the one night the whole league was watching to see if she'd changed, should count for more than any stat padded into a game that was already over. Because here's what makes this whole matchup land the way it does. Cunningham became Clark's protector the moment other. Teams started taking cheap shots at her. Now she's the one who shut down, completely. The exact player who started it 2 years ago. Nobody needs to explain that coincidence to you. It isn't one. The rest of Indiana's roster made sure the game never got close enough to need a hero moment beyond her. Aaliyah Boston went for 18 points and 10 rebounds, shooting 3 of 4 from 3 to match her season high, forcing Vegas defenders to guess all night between staying home on her or packing the paint. Kelsey Mitchell closed the game with 27 points on her third straight outing, scoring 25 or more, getting there in an unusual way, under 40% shooting from the field, but 12 free throw attempts and 10 makes, imposing her will through pure aggression rather than a hot shooting hand. Lexi Hall added a second buzzer beater late in the game on top of her first half heroics, finishing with 10 points on 5 of 10 shooting. Off the bench, Monique Billings put up 6 points and 6 rebounds in 21 minutes, including an offensive board that kept a possession alive when Vegas needed a stop. And rookie Raven Johnson chipped in 6 points and 6 rebounds of her own in 22 real minutes of run. Indiana out-rebounded Vegas 39-30 for the game, with a 13-6 edge on the offensive glass alone. The exact kind of extra possession basketball that turns a close game into a blowout. Vegas, meanwhile, simply ran out of answers. They finished 4 of 19 from 3 on the night, and it got worse as the fatigue set in. Head coach Becky Hammon said plainly afterward that her team looked tired in the second half and that the rebounding hurt them, adding that it becomes a compounding effect once you're not getting stops and the other team keeps getting second and third chances. It didn't help that this was Vegas's 4th game in 8 days. Tired teams don't chase down loose balls, and tired teams don't close out on shooters, which is exactly how Indiana's role players kept piling on all the way to the final buzzer. Final score: Indiana 84, Las Vegas 68, on the road, without their franchise player, and it was Indiana's first win in Las Vegas ever, snapping an 11-game losing streak in that building. Carter left with nothing on the scoreboard, on the one night she needed something the most. Indiana now sits at the 6th seed, 3 games clear in the standings, with a full roster proving it can win on the road without leaning on any single name. And the reason this particular win will be remembered has a name attached to it. Clark's back in that locker room next game, and so is Sophie Cunningham. Every team left on Indiana's schedule should be paying attention to both.